Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. Killers.
We're fantastic.
Yeah, I wish I had felt better.
But the Killers themselves, A+. Sound just like they do recorded, do a great live performance. They didn't too much.
He talked just enough. And they had, like when I used to go to concerts back in the day when I was in high school, they used to talk, they used to change the ending and the beginning of songs to extend them out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was like 2 measures to get into the main song, they'd make it 4. And then that's where the guy would talk. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really love you guys. Then they'd go into the next song. Like, they didn't waste freaking time. 40 minutes chatting with the crowd. Like
everything the Killers dude had to say was relevant to the fact that this was a show commemorating the 20th anniversary of their album.
Yeah. We got to see the 3rd show.
Yeah.
Of their residency.
Yeah.
So we were lucky. And I mean, it was at Caesar's Palace at the Coliseum. I don't know what I can actually say is my opinion on the seating because you made a point that I hadn't thought of. Maybe you screwed up and ordered handicap seats.
It's possible.
But that's a special checkbox that you have to check. I checked.
All right. Then there's no way I checked a special checkbox.
And so people, this is why I'm saying that. We get there. And honestly, they're smart where they put the venue. Right outside the food court is a brilliant place. Because what do people do before a show? They eat. Why do you think the food court was so busy?
Or after. The food court was packed after, too.
Because people eat.
Yeah.
And then you come inside and then there's security. They have these stupid security things that they have here in Vegas. And apparently now it's becoming a concert venue thing where you put your stuff over your head and then it just scans the rest of you and it can tell even what the things are that are over your head. And it's supposed to speed up the whole process. And I can see how it would if it
The
worked.
one at the ballpark works.
For the most part.
Very rarely do you have to get swabbed after you walk through it.
No.
The one at Caesars didn't work, and the humans were idiots.
Well, then she tells me to hurry up through. I have a wallet in my pocket. I 100% have a metal wallet in my pocket. I 100% know it's going to go off. And I'm saying, hold on a second.
Yelling at you.
I don't want to have to go to the wand area. But she makes me go through. And of course, she sends me to the wanding area. And the next thing you're walking over there.
Because I took my phone out of my pocket, put it over my head, and I still set off the detector, and she directed me to stand behind you so that I could get wanded.
Yes, and then proceeded to direct you away from there, which shows you how damn safe these places really are not.
I don't feel like I was directed. I felt like I was chastised for being in the wrong place that she had just sent me to.
So then we had to go up to, we were on like the 4th floor, which we were at the second to the last section from the back. But
it's 3 rows
honestly,
behind us.
It's if you've ever been to Resorts World, their theater there, and a lot of people have because they've had so many big name people there, that it's like that. It's such a steep angle down that there's not a bad seat in that place.
Unless you're sitting in folding chairs at the end of a row.
Yeah. So we get there. And I'm looking and I'm going, 10. What? Why is it 405 or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make any sense. What happened to 1, 2, and 3, and even 4? What happened to 1, 2, and 3? Like we are supposed to have. It's not here. And the guy keeps saying, sir, and he's 90 years old, this guy, and he's supposed to control the crowd.
Yeah.
I could have breathed hard on him and he would have fallen down the stairs. Brings me over and sits me in a fucking folding chair.
The view from the folding chairs, which were like 6 inches lower than the rest of the seats, was a little difficult because they weren't staged properly so that you'd be able to see over the people in front of you. That was annoying. There was lots of room. That's the only positive I will give those seats.
You paid $100 to sit in a fucking folding chair planted in front of a wall that doesn't supposed to have seats at all.
Actually, I
It
paid
was called
$100 to
Ghetto
stand the
Island.
entire time.
It was called Ghetto Island. Oh, and yes,
because
I knew.
Caesar's Coliseum is so dumb that they encourage, like actively with signage, encourage everyone to stand.
But at least they're letting you know that.
Right. I hate standing at concerts.
that
Why do
was
I
just
buy an
outright
effing seat if I'm going to stand the whole time?
Well, that's the thing. I can't stand the whole time. I can stand for half an hour, then I got to sit down for 10 minutes. I have a hard time sometimes on Fremont Street because we go for an hour, but we have to stand 30 minutes beforehand, and then we're there for an hour. By the time I'm done, I'm like, oh my God, I feel 1,000
We
years
should get you
old.
one of those little portable seat things that, like,
It's just like nuts, man. But it was a great show, but those seats, I call that ghetto territory.
yeah, it wasn't.
And by the way, they saw my messages and they never even responded to me.
Of course. If we had been in the,
I wouldn't go back to the only, I'm going to tell you how I would go back to, there's two ways I would go back to the Coliseum. Only two.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Van Halen comes back from the dead and Van Halen performs one last show there. I'm there. Or
paying $500 to sit in the ghetto seats.
Or Led Zeppelin, all their dead members come back to life. They play one last show. Those are the only two ways. So tell me, the probability of me ever going back there.
I think my biggest problem was how hot it was.
Oh, yes, it was very warm inside.
Caesar's Palace is frosty at best.
It
is
comfy.
always cold in Caesar's Palace. And I love it. But the second they closed the doors to that theater, it turned into a heat box in there. It's like there was no air flowing at all. Yeah, the second they closed those curtains, it blocked all airflow. Leave the curtains open then.
I was feeling like garbage. And then great-grandpa is supposedly defending us.
Great-grandpa got worse, though. The part that you're forgetting.
I'm not forgetting.
Okay,
it's your part to tell.
So the killers are like killering away. And all of a sudden, great-grandpa is like, he's making a face at me like he wants to say something. And I was like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just going to keep looking ahead. And then they get to the quiet part of all these things that I've done at the end, but it's still loud. You're at a friggin' concert.
Yeah, everyone's yelling and screaming.
And he's like trying to ask me a question, and his breath. He wanted to know what the lyrics to the song they were actively singing were. And I was like, and he's talking into the ear that I can't hear very well out of on a good day.
Nobody knows that.
And it was loud. And I'm like, I can't hear you. I don't know what you're saying. And he just kept talking. And I eventually just turned to Alyssa and proceeded with my life because he was making me really uncomfortable.
Then I had the guy above me dancing, and he's drunk as hell, dancing around, splashing beer all over me. And I stood up and I said to her directly, the girlfriend who was obviously not drunk, if he spills his beer on me again, we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So please do something about it. But then he spilled his beer on me again. And I stood up and turned around. She like grabbed him and she was like, sit down. You need to sit down. And I was like, yeah, that's what you should have said after the last time when I told you don't do it again or we'll have a problem.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm too nice and I give them the extra chance. Of course, I didn't want to totally ruin the night and beat someone's ass.
Yeah. Plus, you felt like crap, which means you wouldn't beat somebody's ass as effectively.
No, exactly. And I wouldn't really want to. I don't know. It was just an odd venue that I wouldn't want to hurry back to.
And then we go to leave, and it's an old venue. So there's a single escalator going down each level. A single escalator.
Yeah, and it couldn't handle the crowd.
Of course, they have to close the escalator after every so many people because
couldn't handle the crowd.
Couldn't handle the weight. Then you get down to the next level, and there's all the people from that level trying to pile out too.
Yeah, it was exponentially growing. I didn't know where she was.
I didn't want to leave her behind, though. Can you imagine how hard she'd be to find?
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, anyway. I waited for Alyssa. You went ahead. You got lucky because you clearly got on the escalator before they closed it all the way down.
Yep, all the way down.
But an usher lady redirected us to the stairs. And so we, Alyssa and I, slow snaked down the stairs. But then you come out of that place and you're like in Casino Central. It's all casinos. There's all casino
because
machines.
You're right. You're between the strip and the street towards the 15, but behind the strip.
When you came out of the venue, it was all casino machines. out of the doors
Oh
of the
yeah,
Coliseum.
It was blocking. There were steps that went up,
Uh-huh.
and apparently they need those slot machines so badly that they
Right.
freaking blocked the walkway. At least you know when you want to keep them there, move them about 4 or 5 feet away.
To the point where people, and this area wasn't full by any stretch of the imagination, maybe like one person per bank of slot machines. And they were getting so annoyed because all these concert patrons are like pouring out into their area and bumping them. But what the hell are you supposed to do? There's like nowhere to go. Anyway,
It was a cluster.
there was literally nothing good about that venue. Nothing good.
Yeah, I'll change one thing about what I said. I would go back again if they completely remodeled it.
Yeah, but they're not going to.
And I'd go once to check it out. That would be it.
Maybe. If they didn't charge us a horrendous price.
It's just, I don't know. I think they should have advertised we were going to sit in Ghetto Land before putting us.
I wouldn't have picked those seats if I'd have known what they were.
Yeah. It wasn't like we were out of seats at the time that we picked either. We had a lot of choice. And you got...
Hell, I could have picked a different weekend.
Honestly, your location was dead freaking center. Like, it couldn't have been any more center than that. But she comes back in a week. We're going to go see
21 Pilots.
Top.
I was thankful we were not in the row in front of us because we would have been the 3 seats on the aisle because I like to pick aisle seats.
And then those people would have been next to us.
And those people, there was like a group of 6 of them. They were wasted when they came in. They were like spilling their shit. They spent the Killer show is in 2 sections. One section was Hot Fuss, and then one section was like a random mix of their other stuff. The entire first half, she spent taking selfies with various people in her group and elbowing random people in the head. And then the entire second half, her and that disgusting thing she calls a whatever she wants to make out with, went in and out. Every song, they were in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And then they decided to stop and suck face next to me.
I bet they were in and out.
In the bathroom outside, I'm sure.
Often.
Nasty.
I don't know.
Crappy venue, people with no common sense or courtesy.
You know something I've noticed? Like when we went to Santa Fe Station to see that tribute band.
Yeah.
We had no problems. When we went to Vamped, multiple times we've been there to see tribute bands, we've had no problem.
We went to Resorts World 2 consecutive Wednesdays. See Luke Bryan and Katy Perry. Did we have any problems?
No.
Exactly.
No, but I will say this. You just defeated my argument. My argument is that it's the tourists that ruin the environment.
But you know what, though? We went to see Katy Perry and Luke Bryan. Already said it was Wednesdays, and they were in February.
Not only that, we parked in an area where we literally came down an escalator, walked out, and we made a left turn, and there was the theater. We didn't have to go into the casino at all.
Right.
We were right there. So we didn't really experience as much as in the way of tourists because it wasn't a weekend. It was interesting for me because I got there before you guys, and so I did a lot of people watching. And you're right, there were people at the machines that were all angry that it was getting so crowded and people were bumping them.
I could see you going down the escalator after I grabbed Alyssa, like your head was descending. That's how close behind you we were. Not
That's
even
crazy.
a good
So
distance.
I really just barely made it.
Yeah. And you beat us out by 10 minutes?
Easily.
Yeah. You were already sending the sassy text message asking me why I was so slow.
I was teasing you about because you were like, we're almost there. And then it was like a long time. And I was like, what, 2 months away?
I told you we were almost there when we were leaving the doors of the actual place. And it took us that long to get around all those people and see you.
Wow. Yeah. And it wasn't even overly
Insanity.
crowded there.
It was completely sold out, the Killer show.
Yes. And it will be the whole way through.
As expected.
But there's no hope that you would go a second time. You would have had to decide that before you even went the first time.
Yep.
But I think that I'm excited. This other one is at the MGM Grand Arena.
Garden.
MGM
it's
Garden
in the MGM
Arena.
Grand, but
MGM Grand in the MGM Garden Arena.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen videos of people performing there. And it seems like a similar kind of setup.
I think it's less theater and more arena, though.
Circle.
Like, more like
Or
the small T-Mobile.
Yeah, like a mini T-Mobile. Yeah, probably. It's probably a lot like the Michelob Ultra that we went to over there.
Oh, I'm going to take all of the
Mandalay Bay.
ibuprofen before we go then. Because it's probably about the same age of place, which means that there's not a lot of legroom because people were shorter 10 centuries ago.
And MGM was the trailblazer. Theoretically, the Mandalay Bay is an upgrade to what they have at MGM. I'm not really looking forward to that part of it, but I'm not going to let that ruin my fun. I think it's going to be a good time. I've seen them 4 times in concert, and once I didn't even know who the heck they were. Really, I didn't know any of their music, and they were still super entertaining. Like the drummer just like floated out, his whole entire drum set just floated out over the crowd.
We'll update you guys on what the 21
That was
Pilots
crazy.
concert was like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, at least not negative. I want to hear positive.
Because, like, look, the Killers were fantastic.
They were. Go see them.
But what else
Yeah.
do I have to say? They were fantastic. I hope to just be able to say 21 Pilots was fantastic and move on with my life.
They were awesome.
And now you've got Tickets to a Day to Remember, which I have no idea where it is, like
Yeah.
Fontainebleau or something like that, in
Fontaine-
their little
Their
theater.
little place. Yep. That's going to be rad.
And I've entered 5 contests today to win tickets to When We Were Young.
I entered one that you sent to me.
Now that we're done complaining about the Coliseum at Caesars, good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.